The Shark Deck.
I'm Johnny Mac of Jury Duty. Great. I'm recording this section around 8:20 p.m. Eastern on Sunday night. Just watched Jimmy Kimmel do the monologue. It wasn't hack. Vanilla might be the word. Like, he just went down the middle, didn't try too hard, frankly, wasn't trying to knock it out of the park, just told some nice, safe jokes so nobody will get mad. The Hollywood Reporter recaps some of them. Let's get to what everybody wants. Slap jokes. The best joke of the night: if anyone in the theater commits an act of violence, you will be awarded an Oscar for Best Actor and permitted a 19-minute speech. He added, there's a crisis team in place. If anything unpredictable or violent happens, just do what you did last year. Nothing. Some other jokes that landed. James Cameron is not here. You know a show's too long when even James Cameron can't sit through it. How does the Academy not nominate a guy who made Avatar? What do they think he is, a woman? Tom Cruise and James Cameron didn't show up. The two guys who insisted we go to the theater didn't go to the theater. Batgirl became the first superhero to become defeated by the accounting department. And a joke that was, this one might be hacked. I'm happy to see Nicole Kidman has been finally released by that abandoned AMC. Thank you for encouraging people who are already at the movie theater to go to the theater. Yes, I think everyone has made that joke for the last 2 years. Cracked. Spoke to Jim Gaffigan about Jim's inner voice. You know, when Jim does the, oh, I think we probably should have called those nice guys back at Sirius when they helped us early in our career. You know when he does that? Yeah. Jim said, I don't know the exact origin of it, but there's different examples of when I used it. It was a good way to disarm people. If you were late, you speak for them. So it wasn't used for humor there. It was used for articulating that you understand how they feel. But in terms of stand-up, I'm a 1990s New York City comedian, which was combative, not physical combat, but verbal combat. The audience, there wasn't an assumption that you'd make it through the set without someone saying something, and so there was this need to keep moving. There was also this need to communicate a toughness, which really doesn't resonate for me, I guess. The facilitation of the inside voice was necessary so that instead of being heckled, I was heckling myself. But it served a purpose as a 1990s New York City comedian and not leaving air in the set. I think it went to a completely different level when I started performing longer sets, usually middle sets at the DC Improv. That's when it became this creative tool of presenting different options in the audience and attaching a different point of view on the topic. Point of view is so important. If your point of view is I love bacon, if you have this other voice, you can embody and vocalize a completely different option. Working at the DC Improv, that's where it became part of the element of a larger show. Hey, Jim, will you ever stop doing the voice? Jim said, it's a little bit of an element of who my stand-up point of view is. With Dark Pale, which is this most recent hour, what usually happens is when I'm creating the hour and I'm fumbling around through material, I use the inside voice to comment on the material. With every hour, you're trying to push and challenge the premise of what you're talking about and challenge your audience. In other words, you can't just talk about food. Like any good conversation with good friends, you can't have the exact same conversation. It has to evolve. And so in the development of new material, the inside voice is very important for saving me when things aren't working. And then it disappears a little bit in the process as I'm fine-tuning and I'm changing orders and stuff like that. And in the end, when I'm polishing the material, it's woven throughout as an additional layer. This is really interesting, isn't it? Yes. It's weird because there's been times when there's no inside voice, but it usually is part of the process of creating the materials. Any writer knows there's times when things come out whole and there's times when you have to work really hard. And then when you get to a final draft, that's what the inside voice adds to. It's a playful additional point of view that I think helps. Ithaca.com caught up with Nikki Glazer. Hey, Nikki Glazer, how did COVID affect your business? Interesting choice of words, business. Nikki said, it affected it a lot. I'm going to guess, yeah, pretty sure being a comedian, not being able to play anywhere would affect your business, yes? Nikki said, like, stand-up went away for probably 4 or 5 months until people started doing outdoor shows. This is something I've done every single night of my life, practically at least 4 times a week at the very minimum since I was 18, so it was quite an awakening of, oh, I always thought this thing would be there for me, this form of expression, and I realized when it was taken away, it was quite a crutch, and it was almost like an addiction going up every day. I compare it to going to the gym for people who are addicted to working out. Like, if the gym's closed, you would go, what am I going to do? You do home workouts, and I was doing Zoom shows, which are not fun, and I felt really rattled and really depressed and anxious. That's when I kind of realized that stand-up wasn't just me doing it to get better, or me doing it because I have to for work. It was me being able to express myself and get feelings out every day, practically. So I adjusted making my podcast daily at the time, and I got a karaoke machine, so I could just sing every day and perform in my living room.
Welcome to How to Tickle Yourself. I'm your host, Duff McDonald.
And I'm your co-host, Matt McButter. We'll be talking to people who specialize in different ways of inhabiting their own consciousness, from artists to yoga teachers to scientists. We've even got a professional magician.
We're going to ask them questions like, what is consciousness? Why does it tickle? And what is magic anyway? Is it just card tricks, or is it the fact that your little speck of consciousness is part of a perfect possibility machine?
Find us wherever you get your podcasts and at storicmedia.com.
So I asked the AI to write some jury duty jokes in the style of Mitch Hedberg. All right, hit the bass. I was hoping to get picked for a case about a stolen hot dog car. That way, if they found the guy guilty, I could just yell out, "Justice has been served," with mustard and relish. That's pretty good, ChatGPT, Mitch Hedberg. Next one. I don't mind doing my civic duty, but jury duty's like being in a really boring play where you're not allowed to leave the theater. They say that everyone is entitled to a fair trial, but if you ask me, everyone is entitled to a fair trial except the guy who stole my bike. All right, jury duty is like playing Russian roulette, except instead of a bullet, you're dodging boredom and bad coffee. All right, this is ridiculous. Joe Rogan says President Biden is mentally gone and slams, quote, effing sideshow of diversity cabinet. Yes, this from the New York Post. Joe Rogan explained he will not be voting for President Biden. He said this to his guest, comedian Russell Brand. Joe said, I would vote for President Trump before I'd vote for Biden, just because I think with Biden, like, he's gone. Like, you know, he's gone. He's going to be relying on his cabinet. I knew his cabinet would be this effing sideshow of diversity, which is exactly what it is. Rogan seemed focused on Sam Brinton, a former Biden Department of Energy official who faces multiple felony charges for allegedly stealing luggage from other passengers at airports. This from the New York Post. They add Brinton, who identifies as non-binary, was a top nuclear waste official at the Department of Energy until December, when the agency confirmed Brinton had been fired. Rogan said, that's one person who stole all the women's clothes. That's Sam Brinton. That's a diversity hire. You just said, oh, look at this. A man who dresses like a woman and has a beard and a mustache, but also wears lipstick. This is perfect for us. I don't give an F what the guy's good at or bad at. I don't give an F what their credentials are. This makes us look like we're inclusive. This makes us look like we're on the right side. So let's hire that person. You can't have those kind of people running a Ben & Jerry's. You certainly can't have those kind of people running the effing most powerful government the world's ever known. It's nuts. It's nonsense. Russell Brand chimed in and said, he's like the perfect metaphor of what it is. The system's over, and for all the talk of diversity, what have you got? You've got a career politician, white male, that's falling apart before your very eyes. Joe Rogan added, I think Ron DeSantis would work as a good president. I mean, what he's done for Florida has been admirable. Stay tuned. Let's see who's at South by Southwest tonight. This is the part of the show where you and I pretend we're at South by Southwest together and not sitting at jury duty, bored out of our mind, reading a book with tiny print that we can't see anymore because we're in our mid-50s. 6 o'clock, Joe DeRosa's Sandwich Summit. Joe DeRosa, comedian and owner of New York sandwich shop Joey Rose's, is joined by the chefs and creators behind some of Austin's best eats to talk about all things sandwich. Mo Piddle, credited as Jewboy Burgers, Callie Spear, credited as Holy Roller, and Sarah Martin Bidgie, credited as Nixta Taqueria. Throughout a meaty roundtable discussion, they'll share their thoughts and unique spins on this classic culinary concoction from the art of creation to the bread it brings in. Joe and guests will be joined by a few festival comedians to add in a bit of cheese to the conversation. Website here also lists Eddie Pepitone there. Let's bounce on over to the Joey Rose's website and see what we could order. Menu. I'm going to click on menu here. I'll say we'll pick it up. We could get the Eastie for $8. Prosciutto, salami, Asiago, peppadews, olive oil. That sounds really good. $8. That's not bad, especially for New York City. An $8 sandwich, that's got to be like the size of your finger. Sandwiches in New York City are quite expensive, my friends. The Rosie, also $8. Mortadella, white American, tomato, hot cherries, mayo, oregano. No, I'm not going to read you the whole menu, but there are 8 different sandwiches you can get. Then there are specialty sandwiches. These are $12 and $14. For example, the Cuz is homemade chicken cutlet, marinated cherry tomatoes, ricotta, provolone, and parmesan. See, I'd probably get that. And there are extras. Are they fries or chips? Nope. Crispy Brussels sprouts, $6. That's random. 4.5 stars, 84 reviews on Yelp. Here are the top 3 reviews. Stopped in here to try a sandwich after hearing so much about it on Joe DeRosa's podcast. Next guy said, my current fave is the Eastie. See, I told you it was good. And the third review says, all of them were fantastic, but for me, the horseradish mayo on the beefy just took it to the next level. All right, now I'm curious about the beefy. Then I'll get on with things. Are you throwing your phone against the wall yet? Or you're like, why is he talking about food? I hate when hosts do that too. The beefy, roast beef, provolone, sweet peppers, horseradish mayo, salt, pepper, oregano. $8. Ooh. These all sound delicious. Back to the festival. 7 o'clock at the Creek in the Cave. We Used to Be Funny is a stand-up comedy. Let's see. Come celebrate the world premiere of I Used to Be Funny with a night of laughs. Join the film star Rachel Sennott. She's like the it comedian right now. As she hosts We Used to Be Funny, a comedy showcase featuring stand-up performances from Sabrina Jayles and Caleb Huron. They co-star in the film. Also appearing, Beth Stelling and more. Gonna have to make some tough choices. Let's see what else we can do. 8 o'clock, Stand Up Downtown. Josh Johnson, Joyelle Johnson, Pete Lee, Eddie Pepitone Godfrey. 9 o'clock, up next is some of the strongest emerging and established comics. Catherine Blandford, Adrian Iapolucci, Ismail Lufti, Sam Talent, Nick Thune. At 10 o'clock, I've been looking forward to this one. Johnny Cash Jr. and the Nepo Babies Hootenanny. Johnny Cash Jr., played by Matt Besser, hosts an evening of the most famous Nepo Babies performing their biggest hits or maybe their parents' biggest hits. Performers may include such Nepo Babies as Walt and Peppa, Dank Sinatra, Meryl Streep, 12 Savage, Pre-Post Malone, Robert Downey Jr., Frederick the Entertainer like his dad, oh, that's awesome, Asterisk Musk, Puke Combs, Itsy Bitsy Bow Wow, 2 Longoria, and Takeshi 69 Day Lewis. Comedians performing: James Adomian, Anthony Tamnowick, Matt Besser, John Gamberling, Natalie Palamides, Greg Proops. I would absolutely make you go to that show, and that one's not till 10 o'clock, which means, though, we're going to miss the roast battle final round at 11. All right, let's play this out. Let's do the Sandwich Summit at 5. That goes to 6:15. Tonight's one of those nights we're going to have to grab like a slice of pizza and a can of soda. Then let's do We Used to Be Funny. That was the Rachel Sennott show I went on and on about. That's at 7. That goes to 8:15. Then let's hit Up Next at 9, but leave early. So we hit Johnny Cash Jr. at 10 o'clock. That'll take us to 11:15. And then let's see if we can sneak into the end of the final round of the roast battle, which starts at 11 and goes to 12:15. So we're going to be busy tonight. Have a big lunch. Good stuff from Dustin Siebert in the Huffington Post. He wrote, I long viewed stand-up comedy as a medium of largely unchecked freedom, one of the only ways in which someone can take a battle axe to social property and get away with it in the name of laughter. For years, I was the owner and operator of the Lighten Up It's Only Jokes bandwagon, but I've been constantly challenged on that idea over the last decade. Chris Rock encountered, I'm paraphrasing here, this in his most recent special, jokes that no longer hit in a society with evolved sensibilities. He played with certain sensitive topics, including abortion and trans people, with the caveat that he has no problem with them. But he seems to be catching the most hell on Twitter for bits criticizing 2 black women, Meghan Markle and Jada Pinkett Smith, the latter of whom he outright called a bitch. Many older comedians, especially those who've been performing since the 80s, when we collectively busted a gut of demeaning jokes and social media wasn't around, openly struggle with adapting to new standards of funny. We've had time to analyze how unkind black entertainment has been towards black women historically, so lobbing the B word towards a generally beloved black celebrity was never going to land well. Some of the legends have embraced the evolution of funny. Cat Williams got love a couple years ago when he suggested the comedians who don't get with the times aren't really funny to begin with. Eddie Murphy, one of the progenitors of the last several decades of touchy humor, publicly apologized for his nearly 40-year-old wildly homophobic routines that are tougher to hear these days. But most older comedians are entrenched in their unwillingness to evolve, choosing instead to bitch and moan about how they don't recognize comedy anymore and can't tell the jokes they used to. It would seem only a small percent of comedians can remain wildly popular as stubborn anachronism, including Rock and Dave Chappelle. Only recently have Chappelle's jokes come under harsh scrutiny, especially regarding his focus on trans people in his recent Netflix specials. A very vocal minority has sought to expose the potential danger and power in the comedy statesman's words, yet that minority has emboldened him and seemingly made him more popular than ever. Thing is, Chappelle's funny wouldn't be nearly as funny to the masses if he were an up-and-comer. His offensive humor is accepted largely based on the trust he's established over a 3+ decade career. Same with Rock. Even if his routine isn't as fresh as it was 28 years ago, he has more than enough cachet to convince sizable audiences to pay money to see him. Twitter outrage over outrage will likely help contribute to crazy viewership numbers that Netflix will never reveal. Very good piece there, and it pairs up nicely with this one. Sarah Silverman was on CBC Radio 1, and they asked her about some of her bits in the past, including one that goes along the lines of, I hope the Jews did kill Christ, I'd do it again, and about her wearing blackface. Sarah Silverman said, gee, comedy is not evergreen. If you're not looking back at what you did 10 years ago and cringing, you're probably doing something wrong. She spoke about her 2005 stand-up special, Jesus is Magic, and said, there's like N-word, hard R, the R-word. Is that enough to say? M-word for little person? I'm not saying this out of fear, but just out of being mindful, because once you learn something, you can't unring that bell unless you decide you're going to just, something cuts people and say it anyway. That's your comedy news for today. I had intended to do another one of the pieces from Vulture about AI comedy, but that's going to be a bounce for today. Maybe we'll get that tomorrow. A little long here. That's your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your shows. See you tomorrow. All right, here's the pitch. 5 stories. They're all good news. It's called 5 Good News Stories. No negative news, just good news. Nice, easy way to start your day. Hopefully you smile. Hi, I'm Johnny Mac, host of 5 Good News Stories. You get the premise? There's 5 stories, and they're all good news. It's the number 5 Good News Stories. 5 Good News Stories. Follow the show wherever you get your podcasts.